Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. I come to you from Christmas past. This is the Grinch, and I've taken over the studio in fabulous Las Vegas, and so I'll be hosting today. All right, enough of that
Now you
stuff.
can breathe.
You could suffocate pretty easily in there. Greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Tinney, aka the Series 7 Guru, and my always very special guest, the Test Geek himself, Brian Lee, managing member, Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. We come to you every Tuesday night, 5 p.m. from Vegas, and either Vegas, or Vegas in the Northwest. And let's see, I think Brian is in I always get this wrong, the Northwest.
I am in Seattle.
I'm trying to get the framing of his whiteboard to figure out where he's at. So tell us where you're from. Tell us what series exam you're taking, and mainly about sharing content with you. If you have any content questions about FINRA NASAA exams, we'll do our best to answer those questions for you, as well as have some fun and fellowship. Just some housekeeping to take care of before we get started with the Q&A. I just posted the latest episode on our SIE Exam podcast series on economics and offerings. Check that out. Brian and I are collaborating on a 66 exam podcast series. I think we're at what are we, episode 3?
We've done 3, yes.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck on 4. We're trying to make it so our schedules work, and we're in the same kind of general neighborhood when we're doing it. So we'll try to get that done before Christmas break, hopefully. But it's coming. It's coming. So if you do have a question, the best format is to tell us what exam you're taking, as well as what your question is. That way it makes it easier for us to pull out of the chat and answer, because, the answer is dependent on what exam you're taking. There may be overlapping content, but the way it's tested on a particular exam may be different. If you're looking for a free supplement, the best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. But if you're looking for a paid supplement, I highly recommend a Kaplan QBank. Any Kaplan product you can get with a 15% discount at checkout with Guru 15. And Brian, I think, is a great paid supplement as well. I think Kaplan QBank and Brian's paid video courses are, I think, the best supplement. Brian's been kind enough to give our viewers a 20% discount on his content, and that's Guru 20 for that. If you missed the live stream, it's available as a podcast either on YouTube or Spotify. We do broadcast to Facebook, LinkedIn, formerly Twitter, I guess now X, but our preferred platform is YouTube, and you can find most of the stuff here. In terms of our channel, my channel, I should say, it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. But there's, almost 1,000 hours of content, and if the way to use the channel and avoid finding a needle in a haystack is to go to your series playlist. And the playlist section for SIE, for example, is 3, and they're in suggested watch order. The playlists are not suggested watch order. And if you're looking for a particular topic, go to the channel search bar and just put that in the search bar, like accrued interest or margin. And then at that particular subject, all the content we have available will come up for that. At the end of the live stream, we do a drawing for a coaching call, 30-minute coaching call. Isaac just sent me an email, said, can he do it? I don't mind being flexible on that coaching call, but I don't want to have a floating contingent liability that's, I had a guy call me like 8 months later. So claim it within 30 minutes with an email. So I know that you have won that drawing and that we can kind of figure out what schedule works for you. That is recorded and shared, and you can assign it. You can share it. You can do with what you like. All right. So that gets rid of the housekeeping. Let's get going here and seeing what we have in terms of comments. SIE Vidalia, Georgia. I'm not familiar with Vidalia. I'm very familiar with Atlanta metro area and Alpharetta and Macon and some of those places, but I'm not sure where Vidalia is. Hello, Nicole. Hello. 63 on Thursday. You got any practice tests, Nicole? What are you doing? How are you scoring on that 63? Nico, 7 in Chicago. I miss going to Chicago. I used to go to Chicago all the time. My last attempt was on the 22nd, and I received a 67. 67 is not, I don't think, knowledge deficit. It's some other variable. That's why I find most firms will send you again if you get a 60 plus. Below 60 is a knowledge deficit, so we need to find some points there. On my final attempt at the end of the month, our first week in January, get a date. So I don't like it not having a date. So yeah, first week of January or into the month. I'd go first week of January, Nico, because I don't think you want to be doing this like 28th, 29th with Christmas. So I would recommend maybe the end of that first week. I think like what, January 5th or 6th, maybe. Oh, Antonio, that hurts. Those close, but not making it hurt. So we got to find you a couple points. Again, do you have a new test date? Where are you at? Are you in the refresh reset mode? Let us know where you're presently at. If it was last month, I'm assuming you can go redeem yourself here pretty quickly. Series 66 on Saturday from Seattle in Brian's neighborhood. I'm looking for a little more clarity. Brian, I'll turn this over to you on incentive stock options. NQS, I don't even know what NQS is. Non-qualified.
Non-qualified something.
I know what ISOs are. And quantitative versus qualitative. Thank you guys for all the content. You want to hit the ISO or let me do
it? No, I don't. Okay. What are they?
Incentive stock options are compensation. Right. Yeah, given to you by your employer. It's part of your compensation, and typically it would be taxable. So, it depends on how your compensation is set up. It's a very low probability question on 66. Aaron in the chat, I'm not sure what you mean by NQS. Brian and I don't know what it is, and it's probably not testable. Quantitative versus qualitative, again, sounds more like a test prep vendor distinction than a test distinction. Quantitative is certainly on the exam. And quantitative analysis would be that stuff like beta and alpha and capital asset pricing model and, what am I missing? Standard deviation.
My favorite stuff.
Internal rate of return. That is definitely there. I don't think you're going to be asked about the distinction between that and qualitative. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Aaron. So a couple things. Tell us what you think NQS means or what your test prep vendor tells you it is. And what distinction is your test prep vendor making about quantitative versus qualitative? Because it's not a testable distinction. Maybe they mean fundamental. I don't know. Hey, guys, passed the Series 66 last Friday. Yes. Thanks for all the help. Just a heads up, got 4 questions on access persons. That's definitely there, Francisco.
Yeah.
I feel bad that we haven't highlighted that as much as we probably should. But an access person, 4 questions seems a little rich. But access person means you have access to proprietary information of the customers of the investment advisory firm. And therefore, your holdings are subject to disclosure to the IA.
So, that's one of the questions. Yeah, how often?
Yeah, I think that's definitely testable. So I think that's pretty much verbatim. The question is not, Brian. I think we're not supposed to actually tell you the questions and the answers. We'll take a chance that NASA isn't paying attention to our Tuesday live streams.
I've always thought about an average of 2 at least on access.
Really? Yeah. Okay. 4 seems high. What else would you ask? I'm just trying to figure out what the other question would be.
One's probably a basic definition.
Okay.
I tell people just think of an IAR.
Yeah, I think so.
That's close enough, right? You can answer the question. Yeah.
And Tony says he's in the reset mode. He has to wait 6 months. Yuck. Ouch. So May 2024 window opens back up. So yeah, I think refresh, reset. You can't keep powered up on any of this content for any of these exams for 6 months. So I would say take 2-3 months and just kind of, if you want to do anything, do light reading, whatever, and then power up about 8 weeks out is when you should start reinitiating that study attack plan. Rob, hi, I'm taking the Series 7 in January. I'm fairly strong on options. Great. Due to some work exposure. Fantastic. Is there one particular area I should focus my time on, which comes up a lot on the exam? So I don't know if you mean in options. The vast majority of options questions, Rob, are going to be the basics and a covered call. There are advanced option strategies, but the biggies, I would say, and I'll defer to Brian here in a minute, Rob, is Section 3, 91 questions on investment products. And the main categories you get tested on there are options, mutual funds, and muni bonds. I would include a mutual funds package product, so that would include ETFs, ETNs. Your thoughts, Brian, on
absolutely. For options, I've always told people that the majority of the questions are hedges. That's the covered calls.
Right.
And spreads.
Spread's okay. So,
And usually a couple on straddles, but it's usually predominantly hedges and spreads.
the good news about options, if you get good at them, you're going to want a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Because once you understand them, there's no way to really trick you.
Yeah.
So if you have to, depending on your timing, so Rob says he's already strong in that. For those of you who are not strong in options, it's really a function of practice, drilling, and rehearsing. But if you can get that aha moment, lights go on and options, they go out again. They go on again, they go out again. You got to keep it lit. But if you can get that handled and get that under control, then you're going to get, not only will you feel good, you'll feel confident, but that can make up some ground for other areas where you may be weaker, perhaps. And then remember, if you're struggling with options too, there's a lot of option questions that require no analytical prowess. Right. Simply things you either know or you don't. Like, when does the option agreement have to be back? How are exercise notices assigned by the OCC? How do they settle? T+1 in cash for index options, that kind of thing. So I would say, 5, 6 are really just not even option questions as much as that other stuff.
Administrative stuff.
Yeah.
The one thing that kind of a red flag for me, Dean, is when he says he has some knowledge due to work exposure. That always worries me. Real world versus test world is.
Well, we always took on. I apologize. My mom has given me a cold. I mean, I love her, but she's retired. I take care of her, and I told her, I said, Mom, don't be handing me anything. Stay away from me. But I'm coming down with a little bit of cold. Anyways, I'm with you, Brian. So as Brian and I always say, Rob, you're in the Series 7 fantasy land. Yeah. And at least, Rob, when you pass, you get to leave the Series 7 fantasy land. Now, Brian and I are stuck here permanently. We never get to leave. So no wonder we're demented. That's right. And I'm with Brian. I'd be a little careful. I mean, there's a lot of people at work who are trying to help you out. And maybe they are trade options or do whatever. And sometimes those people can do more damage than help. So just be careful about, having too many voices in your head. Oh, I love that, Mohammed. You're a man after my own heart. I got a Golden State Warrior there. I'm trying to figure out which Warrior that is. Is that it looks like it might be a young Steph. Might be a young Steph, it looks like. Hey, Dean, pass the 763 at SIE. Well, there you go. Mohammed, kudos on the test taking registration hat trick. Victorious test taker in the house. Listen, I don't know why you wouldn't want to listen to Brian and I, but if you are suspicious of what Brian and I tell you about the actual exam, check with Mohammed. Yeah. And he can tell you what he saw. I do not have any experience with CFA exams. Do you think there's any relation between them and the Series 7? Tiny bit. What do you think? I think tiny. Yeah, I would consider that a separate thing, Mohammed. A separate thing. That's about right, Nicole. I think 20 options is to be what you should expect, give her +5. I think I'm on the 20 question plus side. I think Brian is on the 20 question minus side. Yeah. So, every draw is a little different. We wish for all of you as test takers a dream draw. Everything you studied shows up and you go, man, I don't know what the big deal is. But remember, you got to be prepared for a face of death draw. You got to be able to take down any draw that you get on the exam. So, hi, guys. Looks like we got Jonathan, looks like a Georgia Bulldog guy. Hey, guys, thanks for all you do. You're welcome. Past the 66, the week of Thanksgiving. Woohoo. And my pie tasted better with that pea. I don't
I love it.
Please break down fundamental and technical analysis in a way I can very easily understand. 65. Well, I would first say, Jerry, and I'll defer to Brian here in a sec, that on your 65, fundamental analysis is way more testable than technical. Technical analysis is where we're using past price performance to predict future price movements. As a technical practitioner, what I'm interested in is not so much the company as the supply of the stock versus demand of the stock. So what I'm trying to accomplish in my charts is, do I think there's going to be more demand than supply of that stock? If so, that stock is going up. Or do I think there's more of a supply of that stock than demand for that stock? That stock is going down. As Brian has there, I'll give him his board space. He has a little chart there. And then the fundamental analysis is going to be about balance sheets and income statements and making a decision. I always joke, Jerry, to say you're a fundamentalist does not mean you're a member of the religious right. It means you make a decision about the economy, the industry, and then the company based on what Brian has up there, the financials. That would be the balance sheet, most importantly, a picture in time of that company, an income statement, a top line revenue, bottom line to see if it's profitable or not, and a statement of cash flow, which I wouldn't worry about at all. I will link at 1521, Jerry. I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts. I usually link with a timestamp, but I've been kind of getting a little lazy and linking just with the videos at the top, whether it's Brian's discounted cash flow or definitions or balance sheet, whatever it is. But I will link either in timestamp at 1539, Jerry, or just as a link at the top, our balance sheet discussion. I have a balance sheet lecture that's free. Brian has one, I believe, that's free, and I'll link that and you can check that out. So technical analysis, I would also just know about, using buy stops and sell stops, in terms of, establishing a long or short position. But if you tell me you messed up the 65 because of technical analysis, I'm going to say, I don't think so. But those financials, working capital is definitely there. Current ratio is definitely there. Some of those balance sheet calculations are definitely there. What do you think about technical versus fundamental, Brian?
Yeah, and when it comes to a question asking fundamental versus technical, I don't think it's really much more than an accept question.
Yeah.
And really I think the easiest way to identify, the financials, anything with assets, liabilities, debt to equity, earnings per share, all of these financial ratios, those are all fundamental. The technical, of course, would be, like he was saying, supply and demand, which is determined by volume. How many shares are traded, price per share, trend lines. These are all associated with the historical stock chart. It's really the easiest difference between the two.
Yeah. And would you agree that fundamental is a bigger deal than technical on 65? What do you think?
Yeah, and yes, when it starts asking specific questions about balance sheets and income statements and debt to equity ratios, absolutely, yes.
Okay. 63, testing Monday. Ashish, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Apologize if I'm not. Well, practice exam scores of 75-90. I think you should be good.
Wow.
Yeah, I think you should be good.
Wow. Nice.
I don't think you're at risk with scores like that. Series 7 and 63 passed the 66. Then got dropped. I'm not sure what that means. So got dropped from your firm, I guess. Taking it again soon. I'm not sure what you mean by got dropped. Taking it again soon. Have done all the study, STC and Kaplan. What is the best test simulation, but not too difficult? Well, you're looking at the best test simulation in that other window to the right of me. Brian's Test Geek exams, I think, have the strongest correlation to the actual exam. Brian has been kind enough to allow us to have that on the channel where you can hit pause, answer, hit play, and hear me answer with my explanation, not Brian's. Brian's is found in the description as rationale. You can also buy that as a standalone. Now, I don't know how people get confused about this. Brian will sell you just that practice test for $20. I think it's $20 well spent. I think it comes to $20 with the discount.
Yeah.
But all you get is the practice exam. And the rationale. So every once in a while, all I got was the practice exam. I think we're very clear. Now, if you want the entire PDF, which comes with his class notes, that's like 40 something. And if you want to go all in on his video courses, that's like around $100. So I think that will be changing the first of the year with the price increase. But to answer your original question, Brian's Test Geek practice exams have the best correlation of the exams. I'll paraphrase, but Brian said in the day when he was, accountability partner to a senior person in his firm, that person will always say, hey, are these people going to pass or not? And Brian wanted to feel good to say, yes, they are, or no, they're not. Right. So
best simulation, not too difficult. I
don't like that. Brian's is difficult, but I think that's a kind of difficulty level. People sometimes complain, Brian, that your exam is a little difficult, but I think it's fair, right? I mean, what you want is a mark that you can rely upon.
That's right. Exactly.
Right. So, you'd rather that, Brian he has a couple where people go, oh, that's a gotcha question. I go, well, I don't think so, but I mean, take it up with Brian.
I'm looking for something that will diagnostically tell us the probability of passing on the
That's
test.
Exactly right.
Whether it's difficult or not difficult, I want to try to get as close to the.
Yeah, we want to be able to tell you
Yeah.
What I love to be in the spot to tell somebody is that they're not at risk. And, you can't do that if you don't have a practice test score that you can rely upon. So Brian and I both are big fans of the Kaplan QBank because it has a performance tracker. And that is got good correlation, but it's a little harder than the actual exam. So, somebody can get like a 60 on a Kaplan and still pass. That's not good test question. It's not good to have a high standard deviation. You want to have a score pattern that it's what the score is what you're going to get, right? So I've told you this before, Brian. Sometimes people will want to do your practice test on a shared screen on a Friday, testing Monday, or kind of similar Tuesday, testing Thursday. And we'll do that on a shared screen. We'll get a score. And every once in a while I have to say, well, I don't know what to tell you. Had that been the real test, you wouldn't have passed. But hey, good to know what it is. And, if you work, you can pass. I've had several people that still pass after failing Brian's practice test. However, what's really great is when somebody scores well on that, we can say, hey, you just need to stick the landing. What a great spot. What you're doing is working, and that's a score we can rely upon. So, you should feel pretty damn good going in there. Thank you so much. For some reason, my last draw had way more questions related to fundamental and technical than I thought. You both are the best. Well, we try. Help me through the SIE, the 7, and 63. So, Jerry, if for some reason, again, you can go to the channel search bar and put in fundamental analysis or technical analysis, and lots of practice questions will come up, if not little lecture tidbits for you. But yeah, that sounds like a little more than I wouldn't expect to get a lot of that. Yeah, Brian, your thoughts?
Yeah, if I'm interpreting, reading between the lines here, I think he's referring to all the balance sheet, debt to equity.
Yeah, right. That's definitely there.
On the 65.
Definitely.
Absolutely. It's under the economic and business information section. 20 questions on the Series 65, 8 on the 66. That's the section that has a lot of that stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah. And good news. Balance sheet calculations are, it's math. You can do it. Sometimes they don't even ask you to do the math. They ask you to recognize it.
That's right.
Like, what best describes working capital, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and both of us have YouTube videos that
That's right. I'll link them. I'll link them to you.
Sheets and income statements.
Yeah, Brian has some. Brian, besides his paid stuff, has some free stuff on YouTube as well. Check it out. I don't know if we have any 24s in the house, but Brian has a closeout video that people swear changes their lives. So.
I love it.
So I'm not even going to make one because Brian's got one and it's pretty good. He also has a one that is on discounted cash flow that's pretty damn good. We did a class together. Did you put that on your channel or not? The definitions of risk?
No, the 30-minute class. No, I've gotten a lot of requests for that cheat sheet though. A lot.
No, yeah, you've been careful. Let videos live forever, right?
Yeah, and which is fine. Yeah, it's funny because on that YouTube video I did on the balance sheets, being the blunt guy that I am, kind of straight shooter, I tell people, if you don't know your balance sheets for Series 65, you ain't gonna pass.
Yeah. You gotta be able to do it. You gotta do it, man.
And I'm not talking about simple balance sheet formulas like assets minus liabilities equals net worth. That's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, technical analysis, not so much, but balance sheets.
Not so much. That's exactly right. Yep.
Hey, Dean, Juan Carlos, pass the SIE in 7 on your content tank by 66 Friday. I find that portion that is 30 questions, well, I'm not sure what you mean by 30 questions, is causing some issues. Juan Carlos, any tips on that section? What section is that that's 30 questions?
32 is the investment client recommendations and investment strategies.
Yeah, if you can give us
questions.
Yeah. If you could give us some more particulars there, Juan Carlos, we'd be more than happy to try and give you some tips on that section. What you might want to do is I'll put it on the replay. I have a video where I go through the test specifications and comment on that. So you could actually go through that and see what my explicated comments are. I hate those scores. Failed by 2 points, the SIE. I still got to keep up studying Series 7 along with my firm. Any advice how to pass both exams? Well, there's a lot of overlap. So I don't think your 7 is going to hurt you on the SIE.
Not at all.
So I think I would focus on the 7.
Yeah.
And if you can take down the 7, you should certainly be able to take down the SIE. Retaking and the 7 are 1 week apart. I think it's doable. A lot of people get that done, particularly since you only missed the SIE by 2 points. So my advice would be stay focused on the 7. It's a much bigger deal. and then maybe a day or two before your SIE, just review. FINRA has a great practice exam that you can review. We have some SIE practice tests. Maybe do a couple practice tests on the SIE, because there is some stuff like economics that's there that's not on the 7. So I would just refresh. I wouldn't really study the SIE as much as I'd study the 7, but I would refresh my SIE maybe 2-3 days out of the SIE. Your thoughts, Brian?
Absolutely. Yeah. Concentrate. If you got to take both, concentrate on that 7.
Yeah.
That'll certainly carry over to the SIE.
Balancing workloads. Well, if you're not a full-time studier, so Brian and I both have suggestions for study plans. I believe in creating what I call study blocks. And a study block is 45 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on, again, are you a full-time studier, part-time studier? Do you have family? What are your commitments? And how many study blocks could you commit to? I would like, if you're balancing a workload, if I could get you to give me 2 study blocks of 45 minutes in the morning before work. Most people are better then than they are going to be after work, when all the energy vampires have got to you. So, in the evenings, that would be stuff I would be doing in my study blocks, watching videos, maybe doing some low-key stuff. But yeah, that's balancing is difficult. I totally understand that. I would also tell you to rotate your activities. So you shouldn't be reading like in 3 study blocks in a row. If you're reading, do videos, do practice questions, rotate your activity and rotate your subject area. And then I would track that and see how you're doing in terms of getting stuff done. I'd be more interested in your accountability partner of what can you commit to me on an activity basis than, anything else. Are you going to commit to me? I'm going to see 20 questions a day or 30. If you're your own accountability partner, then it's up to you to hold yourself accountable. But if I were in the role as your accountability partner, I would want you to commit to a study plan that includes study blocks and activities. How many questions, how many videos, whatever the case may be. Welcome from Facebook, Gina. I love when we have people join us from Facebook. I had Brian and somebody go, "Oh, I thought you hate Facebook." I go, "I do, but if test takers are looking for help on Facebook, you'll find me there. I'm like a superhero. Wherever test takers need help, there you'll find the Series 7 guru." 65 testing. Need to bring up my test up by 10 points. As easy a rule of 72. I'm having trouble with that. An after-tax return. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Gina. I'm working on this. I don't know if you joined us last week, but I'm going to redo my rule of 72 video. I will link that to you, but I'm going to actually have it include present value, future value, and internal rate of return. And maybe you'll find that helpful. I'm looking here when you're testing. After-tax return should be pretty simple. What's the government taking from you, and what are you left with? What do you think, Brian? Any easy having trouble with this?
Well, the after-tax return I know shows up a lot.
Yeah.
And the one thing, without revealing too much that I'm not supposed to reveal,
yeah,
you got to remember that dividends are taxable.
Yeah.
Gains are not, unless the investment is sold. So really, you only have to do the tax on the income, the dividends, and not the gains. I always joke, watching your securities go up is not taxable. Right.
The way I say it, Gina, is the capital gains tax is a transaction-based tax, and the easiest way not to pay it is not to transact. In the short term, Gina, what I'll do is I'll link to a video on the rule of 72 for you, and you can know that I've got a new one coming that I think will include some goodies. The more I think about it, the more I can do in that one kind of video I have. And then after-tax return, that's just taxes, but usually they're going to give you like a corporate bond of 8%. That's $80 in annual interest. I'm in a 28% tax bracket, and it's simple as taking that 28% away from that and say, okay, that's how much the government is confiscating from me, and so this is what I'm left with as a percentage. Yeah, Brian.
Would you allow me to do something very quickly?
Oh, absolutely, of course.
This is all hypothetical, of course.
Okay.
So we start with a $10,000 investment. I get a $500 dividend. And at the end of the year, the investment's now at $10,500, right? What we just mentioned was only the income is going to be taxable. That gain is not realized. It has not been sold. So for the total return, right, income plus or minus the gain or loss divided by the original cost. So let's say we're in the 30% tax bracket. So again, income is taxable. So you subtract out the $150, 30% times 500. So that would leave us with $300 after tax income plus the $500 gain divided by, oops, sorry, that's 350. The original 10,000. So 350 plus 5 is 850. So that ends up being 8.4.
Wow. So yeah,
How quick was that? Huh?
that's a little more complicated than I would be expected to see on there. But yeah,
The
absolutely.
65.
Yeah, there you go, Gina. There you
Yeah.
go. So, wow, like that. In question form. Okay, you want to try that, Brian? So, how would that be phrased as a test question?
So all of this is the core of the test question, where they start giving you all of
So, your
the-
client invests $10,000. Your client has received $500 in dividends, and the
At the end of the
security
year-
has gone up to the present value of the securities position is $10,500.
Right.
The customer's in a 30% tax bracket. What is his real rate of return or effective return? How would they say that?
Yeah. What is the after-tax return?
After-tax return. There you go. So there you go. We're like playing Jeopardy in the form of a question.
Exactly. If you were sitting having an adult beverage,
There you go. Yeah.
probably reveal a little bit more.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Wow. So there we go. So that's not typical, by the way. It's typical that you would go up from the Kaplan Mastery, not down. So that's unique. So that's a statistical anomaly. Usually the Kaplan Mastery is tougher. Doesn't do you any good with that 67, but that's unusual. That is unusual. Rule of 72, Gina, is again, I'll just give you a brief overview and I'll link. The rule of 72 is kind of a cocktail party trick that tells us either how long it takes to double money or what rate of return we need to double money. So, Gina, I'm going to do this on the fly. I'm going to try and do this on the fly. And here's kind of, you're going to get a preview of the video I'm going to make. I already have an existing video, Gina, called Rule of 72. And it starts with a guy who's 50 years old. He has $100,000. And in the question, they say he wants to retire at 70 years old with $400,000. Okay, so the first thing we need to recognize, Gina, is we have a time period of 20 years, right? 50 years old to 70 years old. We have a present value of 100, and we need a future value of 400. And so when you look at that question, if you don't know Rule of 72, you're going to say, well, damn that, Dean. He told me I wasn't going to have to do any of this stuff. But if you look at it a little closer, you're saying, I wonder if I could use the Rule of 72 here. So I say, okay, well, if I have a customer who wants $100,000 20 years from today, halfway through that financial journey would be 10 years. And if I could double that customer's money in 10 years and double it again, maybe I could be there. So I say, okay, let's see if I can double 100 grand. What would it take to double 100 grand to 200? Because if I can double 100 to 200 in 10 years, double it again, that would be my 400. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Rule of 72, and I'm going to divide by 10 years. I'm going to find out that it takes 7.2% to double that money 10 years and then double it again. So that would be the rate of return necessary to take the present value of 100 to the future value of 400. So that's how we use the Rule of 72. Now, if we wanted to divide 72 by 7.2%, that too would tell us 10 years to double our money. So that's how they use it. Now, I have that in video form, Gina, but I ran this by Brian just to make sure by math. Brian's a better math guy than me. But what I think I'm going to do, Gina, with that video is I'm going to change it a little bit. Because we have 7.2%. We have a compounding periods, 20 years. We have present value of 100. We have future value of 400. And what I think I'm going to do, Gina, is that I'm going to cover that up, the 400, and say, okay, we have 100. And if we could get 7.2% over 20 years, that would take us to the future value of 400. Or cover up the 100 and say, if we took the 400 back to present value, that would be 100. And that 7.2, I'm going to call that the internal rate of return. Anyways, I'm going to beef that up, but I'm going to I think I could talk about more things as it relates to that question than I have presently. So stay tuned, I guess. Yeah.
And Dean and I both agree. You're not going to pass or fail this exam because of math.
Yeah, it really is.
Don't get too over involved in math on the Series
Oh,
60.
it's a big mistake. It's a
Please.
siren song. It's a rabbit hole. Listen, I hope as a teacher I never do this, but I had a terrible third grade math teacher. His name was Mr. Bruner. And what a terrible thing. I've been math phobic ever since. I'm just now recovering from that. But people who are like Dean, who are fearful of math, sometimes they end up spending way too much time on the math. And then, by the way, it's a curse. It's a curse for those who know math, because people think they know math, think they're going to get all kinds of points for the math, and they're not.
Right.
So, what do you think, Brian? I usually on debrief tell people, tell me that to use a calculator maybe 2-3 times max.
On the Series 65, and again, I usually err to the conservative side. I say 3 to 5.
3 to 5.
That's all out of 130 graded questions. That's not much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't get overly stressed on the math, please.
So Juan Carlos' recommendations, I think, comes from 2 areas. First, you got to know your products very well.
Yes.
Because if you don't know your products very well, you won't know what is an unsuitable recommendation. The test usually tests from a negative standpoint, because there's a lot more consensus on what somebody would not recommend than what they would. What I mean that is Brian and I could come up with equally suitable recommendations that are completely different, where we would have more consensus on what Brian and I would agree would be totally not suitable. For example, you need liquidity. We shouldn't put you in a partnership. Second thing, recommendations come from doing data gathering. So I say, listen, for me to do a really good job for you over time, I need to know a lot about you. The more I know about you, the better I'm going to be able to make recommendations that are suitable. And so that's that data gathering. Like, can you tell me about, let's do a balance sheet up front for you. Where are you at right now? What are some investment objectives? College, perhaps. Buying a house, perhaps. Retirement. These are common things. So I would say beef up on your products, so you know your products very well. And then I would make sure when you're looking at the question of the customer profile, there's certain pivot words like they're willing to accept moderate risk. Well, that's not a government security, right? Or they don't want to accept, they worried about safety principle. Oh, then it is a government security. So try and read those questions and look for those pivot words. Oh, high tax bracket, muni coming.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I would recommend. Any advice on that, Brian?
Exactly what you just said. You got to know your products first. One other advice, I've heard this sporadically over the years, that when you get some of these suitability questions on multiple exams, 6, 7, 65, 66, they often give you names of mutual funds like the XYZ Cash Reserve Fund. Huh. How many people actually know what a cash reserve fund is, right? It's a money market, right? But a lot of people don't make that connection. Yeah. So know what the mutual fund name means, so you can then match it to the objective. That's the only tricky part.
And by the way, on 65, there's a lot of mutual fund questions. I mean,
yes, there are.
Nico, could I receive some guidance with FIFO or tax minimization for NAV and the POP? So what you want to do, Nico, is you want to sell the shares you have the highest cost basis on. So that's called share identification. So that will generate the lowest tax. So if you're trying to minimize your taxes, we say you should sell the shares you have the highest cost base on. That would be tax minimization. Now, the IRS says if you can't identify your shares, Nico, they're going to say the first shares you bought are the first shares you're selling. And usually those first shares are the ones you have the lower cost basis on, and therefore would generate the biggest tax. The POP is what you paid. The NAV is what you're going to receive. So when you're selling or redeeming, it's going to be the NAV. I'll get Brian on board there.
Yeah, and if this is Series 65 versus Series 7, it can be a little bit different. Yeah. But on every Series 7, you get a sequence of purchases. And this happens quite a bit, right? In our 401k when we're making purchases every month or any mutual fund. And of course, you're buying them at different prices. Thus, the dilemma is when you go to sell some of these, how do you determine what that cost basis is? And that's where the IRS rules come in. The automatic default is first in, first out. So the IRS will always assume you're using that method unless you select something else, such as simply taking an average is an acceptable way of finding your cost basis. Or, as Dean just said, you note on your tax form what shares you're selling. And you typically want to sell the largest price or the highest price because that gives you the least amount of capital gain. And that's called share identification.
Boom. Excellent, Brian. Yeah, fantastic.
It's pretty big on a 7. Very
powerful. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Line's a little different, but kind of the same.
Yeah, and then the other thing I would add is that there's LIFO on variable annuities. There's LIFO and FIFO in terms of inventory, LIFO and FIFO versus exercise. So it depends on context what the answer will be. There you go. Thank you, Juan Carlos. I think we figured that out. Thank you. So it was client recommendations. There we go.
Yeah, that's it.
My exam felt really difficult. Lots of paragraph based. It's a lot of it's a reading test. Easily threw me off, so you got to work on that. And some coworkers said it was super easy. Well, that's the draw, right? Some people get good draws and bad draws. It's a random draw of questions. Is it possible to get a really difficult workload? Is it possible to get a really difficult workload? It is. I mean, the draw is a random draw. So now they do what's called equation to try and make up for that. But it is, what it is. I sometimes have people tell me, and I go, I'm not going to call them a liar, but I go, man, that sounds like a hellacious draw. I mean, crazy. We had for a while people saying, Brian, I don't know. Yeah, Brian's not as involved in social media as others, but we had people on the Reddit forum saying they got 12 margin questions. I'm like, I don't believe it. I'm not going to tell them that. But I mean, then recently and then people be careful on social media, please, because then people, oh my God, 10 margin. I go, no. 2, 3, 4 max. So.
Study full time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would that also work for studying SIE at 6? Well, 6, I think, Antonio, I always say really overlearn the SIE. If that's the first leg of your testing journey, make sure you overlearn it, because that will really put you in good stead when you go into that second leg, whether that second leg be a 6 or that second leg be a 7. Now, Antonio, I would not say studying the 6 will get you to the SIE because it's a broader exam. What I would say, if you do a great job on your SIE, I think you could almost pass out of a Series 6. What do you think, Brian? Is that be a little too?
Almost. I don't tell people that.
You don't want to go there.
I feel the same way. I really
do.
Do.
So if your the second leg of your testing journey is the 6, by the way, 6 or 7, you really want to lay that foundation for the SIE. There you go. Gina from Facebook. What area should I focus most on the 66? Well, about half of it is regulations. The other half is investments. So I don't know what to tell you about that. I would focus on both. I don't think there's a way to say focus on investments or focus on regulation. Brian and I are surprised, so respect it, Lightyear. So here's what we would tell you. Some people are coming off 2 testing victories, and they're going into their 66 and rightfully feeling really good about themselves. They got, 2-0 testing victories, and they get a little bit of hubris, and they don't respect the Series 66, and then they go 2-1. So just make sure you respect that 66. Looks like Brian is doing a little breakdown there on the board for you. Is that what you're doing, Brian?
Yeah. There's the client recommendations that the gentleman just said, which is 32, and then the laws and regs is 45. And this is the Series 66. Series 65, same categories, just different
rating. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, obviously the laws and regs are almost half the exam. That's where everybody spends the majority of the time, as they should. And typically what we see is a pretty decent passing score. Everyone struggles in the beginning with reading that legal content, but they typically do pretty well. For those who don't make the mark, surprisingly, it's the investment vehicles that they sometimes fall down on, or there's the fundamental analysis stuff again, the balance sheets, the income statements, the quantitative analysis. This is the area that Dean and I always find people who don't make the mark typically score the lowest, and they do relatively well in the laws and regs. Kind of the opposite of what
you would expect. It is. It's kind of weird. It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Goldsmith, new to your channel. I failed the SIE 69%. Oh man. Looking to retake the test soon and follow up with my 6 and 7. Which playlist should I tune into? So I have my channel is organized by playlists. So it depends what you're doing. If you're going to go back and circle back on your SIE, I would go to my SIE playlist. I have 3. I have a playlist that's lectures. I have a playlist that is practice tests and practice questions. And I have a playlist that is podcasts. As I said, they're in suggested watch order, and the videos within the playlist are within watch order. Again, if you're taking the 6, you would go to the 6 playlist. I think the 6 playlist, I only have 1 playlist. And then 7, I have 7 different playlists. And again, they're in suggested order. Same deal, lectures, explication of the content outline, options, practice tests, lots of good stuff. The best way to use the channel, I think, is from the homepage. I have most of the stuff on the homepage. So that's what would be my recommendation, is to find the playlist for whatever series you're taking. There could be more than one, and start where it says start here. For the SIE, for example, it says start here. For 6 and 7, it says start here. So it has a start point. And then, like I said, I don't have the expectation. Brian, I don't believe you're monogamous. I know you would probably tell us you are, but we think you're going to use whatever will help you pass your test. And in my case, I don't have any expectation somebody's going to watch, 1,000 hours of my videos. But they're there and they're in suggested watch order. That's the part I mean about a buffet. I had somebody that I thought did a pretty good job, Brian. They told me what they were using the channel for. My channel is to fill in what gaps they had. So if they were using their paid provider and, they still didn't kind of feel they got it, then they'd go to the channel and find, Dean's version of that.
Isn't that kind of what we do?
Yeah, I think that's what I mean, well, Brian is a paid supplement. I'm a free supplement. We're trying to plug those gaps for you.
I tell people that I'm a bridge over the gap between the textbooks and the real.
Yeah. sometimes vendors really need a bridge.
Yeah. Especially for the 65.
Yeah, you need a heavy duty bridge. Get you from point A to point B. Hi, Ivy. Oh man, we got Gina. I love it. We got a lot of Facebook people. I'm not sure what you mean. Did I miss something, Gina? 200%
S&P.
Are you talking about like a 2x ETF or something? I want to be on that. Yeah, that's definitely on the test, right? So if I have a 2x, it could be inverse as well. I mean, I don't want to complicate it here, but if the market went up 10, I would have the expectation that a 2x ETF went up 20. And it's inverse. That's right. If it's inverse, I would think it'd go the other way. So I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but that is testable if that is what you're talking about.
On the Series 7, little birdie, not that I'm revealing what's on the test. Dean, you and I know these things in the real world as 2 buys or 3 buys. That's what everybody in the real world calls them, but on the test, they're always referred to as
there you go.
Or 300%, according to this birdie.
Yeah. The other thing I would warn you, Gina, is that they try. I don't want to say they're trying to trick you, but people who are not, I don't know what's the right word, not mathematically inclined, I'll say. They have questions like, I think Brian has one where it says it goes up 10%, it goes down 10%. There's a lot of people who, on a math basis, think that's a wash, and it's not. So if you actually did the math, you would find out you feel good about a wrong answer. So if I tell you it's like 100 grand, it goes up to 10%, that's 110. People get that. And then I say it goes down 10%, that's not 100, right? So just be careful when you're doing, if you are asked to do the math, that your mind says, oh, it's a wash. No, it's not. You are welcome, Antonio. You're welcome. Well, it is the holidays. It looks like we're all caught up. I don't have any problem going to our drawing.
Bring it back, Dean.
Oh, sorry. I did so good, man. I had it the whole time except that one time. Oh, man.
You were actually really on a roll.
I was really on it. I was on it. Jeez, I was on it. Got distracted. Any last questions here before we do our drawing? Now, I haven't decided. I'd be interested in your chat before I bring up the giveaway tool here for our coaching call. I'm not sure that we'll be doing a Tuesday. Next Tuesdays, that's December, 19th, I think. And then it would be December 26th. And I think we might just wait till the new year and do January 3rd, I'm thinking. But let me know what your thoughts are about whether or not you would like to, do this. Hold on. I'm going to put that in there. Choose the live stream. So Brian thinks the word we should put in there is snow. So that's what we're going to do. And now let me go get that.
No.
And let me now see if I can find that. Share screen. Window. It looks like I don't have it in the right spot. So let me move it over. Boom. There it is. And let me try it again. Share screen. There we go. And boom, is that showing up there?
Yes, it is.
All right, there we go. Okay, so we only have 3 drawings, 3 entries for our coaching call.
They're coming. They're coming.
All right, so 4, there's 4.
They're coming.
Now remember, if you do win the coaching call, then you need to send me, let me put that up there, an email claiming your win. And again, I haven't decided if we are going to compete with the holidays next Tuesday and the following Tuesday. If not, you'll see the link for the next live stream, which would be after the holidays. Well, Nico, the giveaway tool, Nico, it doesn't matter, Nico, if you put that in there 50 times. The giveaway tool recognizes that. It won't increase your odds. So. All right. Any others? All right. Well, let's get this done. Boom.
And the winner is.
Oh, now listen, I just want you to be clear that it didn't matter that Nico put all those snows in there because it doesn't. The giveaway tool only picks it up once, so right. He wasn't able to stack the odds. He just ended up winning, right? So, all right. So I wish all of you the best of the holidays. Enjoy your time with your friends and family and good food and fellowship. Remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. Brian, what say you?
Keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday or after the holidays. Bye-bye.